All right.
Welcome, welcome. So we're live now on Facebook. How you guys doing?
You sure?
Yes.
Just
He just
setting
loves
up.
doing this to me every time, every time.
We are definitely online.
There you go. If you don't believe me, believe Sagar.
I don't know if I could do that.
So wow, yeah, I don't. We actually didn't even have a chance to have a little break, a bit of a sip of water. But for those of you who've joined us, thank you so much. Whether you're waking up, whether you've actually had a productive session and you've been out and had a walk, or your gym session, or whatever, you're having a lazy Saturday afternoon. It's all good. You're tuned into the Mindful Men's Club, and we've literally just finished our previous session, private space, and the topic today was reflections and realizations, and so many notes. I think everyone's made notes, right? I've made quite a lot of notes. So I've got my whole page of A5 book filled up with notes. So many profound realizations, so much personal shares. I think there was quite a lot of deep personal shares, right? Which we won't mention any of the men's names. We'll try and extract and unpack as much as we can, without actually revealing the actual details of who shared them, because they were quite personal. But so much that I think, I don't know about you guys, but I learned about just how you actually come to a realization or a reflection, right? And what's the different avenues and the different streams. And then some people can be in the state of flow, and then their lives could be really, really super blessed, and they could be awakened to a deep, profound reflection and have a realization. And then a lot of the people in the room, I think most of you guys would agree that the realizations and reflections came from a what we described as a jolt, right, in their life, and that resulted in a form of experience through pain and suffering in whichever shape, form, and depth of that, whether it was bullying, whether it was divorce, relationship breakup, whether it was just a search for, I guess, answers, in their own life. And there was so much unpacking, and so much. I'm still processing. You can tell I'm still processing all the information, right? Normally, I go straight in for the unpacking, but I think I'm going to hand it over to you guys, because I think I'm still downloading the shares, and I'm still downloading a lot of the content that was shared, and our chat room was flying like crazy, like it normally is. And it was so blessed to welcome two new guests, right? And when we have new faces, so it's really, really nice to welcome new faces, and then have them stay all the way till the end. So we didn't scare them off. We're just kidding, guys. We're really super friendly. We're really welcoming, and we talk about topics that you give us, not that we select. So one of the questions that we will be posting on the Facebook chat is, what do you want as the next topic? And whether that's coming from a male or whether that's coming from a female, right, guys? I think it's all good. Some of the topics actually have been suggested by females, even though they can't attend the actual Zoom session, obviously, because it's for men only. Not discriminating for the women listening, because we do have two sister groups called Mental Wealth and Reroute. So definitely go check out those on Facebook if you haven't come across those. But wow, I want to hand it over to you guys while I have a sip of water and just process everything.
Yeah, I mean, this theme, reflections and realizations, is one that we do every sort of 4 or 5 meetings, just to have a check-in with any themes that we've covered previously, or anything that's come up for people, and just to really get present to what is a reflection and a realization, right? We hear these buzzwords a lot, but actually just kind of breaking down a couple of them and seeing what's coming up, or how can we get that. And yeah, do you know, I think if we're good, let me just share a few some of the slides that we had, just kind of that prompted the conversation, to see where it's going as well. And before I do that, I just wanted to acknowledge we've got 9 people with us watching live. So hello, everyone. Hey, Darren. Hey, Nimesh. How's it going? And yeah, again, let us know where you're tuning in from, anything you want to add to the conversation. Like, we'd love to hear from you guys as well. So this is an interactive thing. It's not just the three of us, just kind of debriefing, but we'd love to hear your thoughts and everything as well. So on that note, while we before I start that, I'm just going to share my screen and then just pop up some of the slides, and just to give you guys a little bit of a context to what we covered in the conversation, and how we got to where we got to as well. So reflections and realizations, of course, is what we were talking about, and really just looking at how you see the picture, And ultimately, in the scientific sense, you know, when we think of a reflection, it's really a mirror reflecting light and thus reflecting the world that is around us. And from a spiritual perspective, light has a symbolic attachment to illumination, awareness, wisdom, etc. So therefore, you know, the mirror reflects truth. They reflect what is. And we say that sometimes in order for there to be a reflection, there needs to be some kind of a mirror. So you have to look at something. So in the physical sense, when you're getting ready to see how you look in that mirror, you get a sense of, you know, is your tie sorted? Is everything looking all right? But then we also think from an internal perspective, how does that reflection happen? Because you could be living in a paradigm that may not necessarily be so, and life's happening and circumstances are occurring that are impacting the way you're able to deal and feel. So in another sense, it's the external is your circle of awareness. What are the things that you know about, and the things that you know that you don't know about as well, which, you know, is 10% of what that conscious mind is. So this circle doesn't really do it justice, but it's in these blind spots and in these unknowns where a lot of our true reflections will really come out. And it's being able to sort of look in that mirror and see what's really there. And then from that perspective is how do you now begin to action that? Now, there's many ways to look into the mirror, and there's some practices that we're going to recommend, but you need something to help you complete your own picture, because when you're looking out externally, you can only see through your own eyes what's in your foveal and peripheral vision. But there's a whole world around you that unless you start turning and start seeing it, you know, you're not going to get a sense of that full picture, and therefore the realization is going to be limited. So we've got this iconic scene from The Lion King just as an example. And then you've got a moment where Simba realizes who he is, because he is looking into that river because he's running away from something. And the moment Rafiki asks, or he hears, remember who you are, is when he realizes that he is the king. He is the king of his own kingdom. And there's a place for him that he wants to step up in. And everyone could have told him that, but it wasn't until he saw that for himself that he was able to get into that action and get into the groove. So the realization is an act of just becoming fully aware of something as a fact. By the fact, we mean that as a truth for you, and you now begin to take action and then grow into that space.
That's yeah, and that's really powerful, right? When you share that, because just to reflect, I think the word truth is a really powerful word, and I think that the whole essence of whatever reflection you're having, whether you do it as a practice, I think it's something that we would definitely encourage, because we all do it, and pretty much most of the men who joined actually practice daily reflection and introspection. But I think everyone is searching for that truth, right? If you break it down, and that truth can come from a place of whether it's for a place of pain, for example, something that bad's happened to you in your life, and you're thinking, you know, why me, and why is this happening, how can I get out of it? Whether it's relationship challenges, whether it's financial struggles, whether it's bullying, whether it's extreme on mental health side of the spectrum, you know, suicidal thoughts. Everyone's going through sort of a dark place. But the interesting balanced conversation that actually was brought up in the previous chat is that introspection and reflection can also come from a state of flux and flow, when things are actually all good, right? And we had many examples, didn't we, guys, about the Djokovic example, where I mean, I'll let you touch on it, Biraj, more, because I think you were more in tune with that whole sort of video and how that experience happened. But I think the point is that it's like two streams of river flowing into an ocean, right? So whether you have a realization through a source of pain, or whether you have a realization through a source of joy, pure state of flux and joy, it actually doesn't make a difference, right? But it's that search of truth, and once you enter that ocean, it's almost like, wow, and you do need to reflect. And I think the circle on the right, the interesting thing is that whether people agree or not, and I love to know if people agree or disagree, because we always love a nice healthy discussion and debate, is that 90% of people actually are on the right hand side, depending on how it's looking on your screen. So what I mean by that is the blind spot, so the unknown unknowns, basically. So we think we have a circle of awareness, because we're seeing life through the lens of our own eyes. But once we see life through, I mean, life is multidimensional. So what I mean by that is that I don't know everything I don't know, because I'm just assuming what I know, right? Because it's me who's saying it. Whereas if Viraj is actually saying, hey man, I'm just tapping me on the shoulder saying, are you aware that this is happening? Or you could do this, or you could be this, or this change might actually impact you in a good or bad way. And then Sagar on the other shoulder is saying, oh, by the way, this is coming, further down your road in your journey. It's almost like seeing the traffic, right? When you're driving, and can you actually see the traffic? And I think the interesting introspection that probably would be really useful is for everyone to understand. And it's not that we know it, we don't know it. We're just constantly learning, and we're constantly trying to find our own blind spots as well. But it's quite powerful exercise just to, if you've never done it before, how you do it is not really important. But if you actually can introspect, reflect, and almost like Simba, right? The cartoon image, which is quite etched in my head now. So thanks for that. So I might have to go watch that again, because it's quite powerful for different reasons. I think everyone needs a mirror, whether that's somebody who's a loved one placing that mirror in front of you, whether you're just looking in front of the mirror, and you're looking at yourself and you're saying, right, what is it that that's going on in my life? What is it that I'm trying to change?
Yeah.
What is it that I'm trying to do to improve whatever I need to improve? But it's just such a deep subject that we can talk for hours, right? It's just so powerful.
The key thing on the mirror is you need a mirror that just reflects what's there for you, not someone else. So for example, and this is where you can definitely get advice and mentorship from someone, but you still have to, it's coming from another perspective as well. So it's like so many people saying you've got something in your teeth, and like, yeah, whatever. But then it isn't until you look in the mirror and you're like, oh, right, yeah, okay, now I see it. So it's getting to that now I see it moment. And then, as you say, Manoj, is who are the people that are going to give you that mirror image back to you as it is? Or what are some of the practices that we can do independently to begin to see our lives as the observer rather than the person that's at the effect of it? Because ultimately, as you say, the traffic analogy is great. It's like so many people can tell you you're about to run into traffic. And sometimes our sat navs tell us, but no, I'm going to stick to this route. I know this route's going to be fine. And guess what happens? You get stuck in traffic for half an hour and wish that you listened to Waze or Google Maps. So that's the kind of existence that we have, is that we get the signs, traffic's coming, and yet we still go into we still make those same choices. We still take the same routes and then wonder why we're late all the time.
It's fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating. And I think just to unpack it and to summarize it, we're only talking about literally the first stage, if you like, which is, can you enter into the space of doing daily introspection, reflection, and then through that process, you will have your own realizations, right? Whether that's simple, profound, out of body, it matters not, right? It's just having that actual process. And then we went super, super deep. And just in case you guys think that's not deep enough, so it's like you're having those realizations and reflections, and then it's like, well, what are you doing about it, right? Back to your point, right? It's, what are you actually doing about it? So what is the action that you're taking that's going to impact you in the trajectory of your life? Meaning, you've had this reflection, you've had this introspection, you've had this realization. What action are you actually going to take? And then we talked about the guys who take different steps, right? How to actually do that. So some people talked about daily meditations, some people talked about daily journaling. One of the guys talked about something really super, super deep, which was like really life transforming. Was it Mount Kailash? Was it the reference? Yeah. Absolutely life transforming journey. I think where he spent, I think was around 4 weeks, if I'm not mistaken. It was around 4 weeks, right? The journey. So this is the point, that realizations can come at any stage in your life, but if you don't enter that space of, and I think, just reminding me actually, just one thing that what we all tend to do, and I've done this quite a lot in my life previously, not so much now, is that we take so much for granted, don't we? So I think when you take something for granted, you almost feel that there is no change that needs to be changed because everything is going supposedly well, whether that's materially, job, house, money. But then you actually start to realize, and it's almost like this seed that gets sown in you, but you don't know who sowed it and you don't know why it's there. But you have this moment of awakening, right, where you think, okay, wow, I didn't realize that this is who I was meant to be or see or do or change. And no one can tell you how to do that. It's just something that you have to actually experience. Um,
I love just echoing that point, Manoj. Actually, I was just thinking about that. That it's like we mentioned earlier, you know, it's all good to reflect and have realizations and be aware. And I think you mentioned it to me earlier. It's like when I told you about my reflection realizations before we even started the call, and then after we started the call, um, that I'm aware of what I need to do, but I block myself, right? And so it's all good and of reflecting, but as you mentioned, what are you going to do about it? And sometimes you know what you want to do about it, but then I just thought about it just now, like what you just said is so true, because my life is good as it is. Like I love what I do. I'm always entertaining people and DJing, and my business side of it's growing. And I'm reflecting on, okay, I need to grow this relationship. I need to grow this relationship. So I know what I need to do, but the positive of it in terms of my business is growing overtakes everything, and stripping it, you know, knowing when to strip it back and actually trying to think, okay, I need to grow this and I need to grow this. It's good that my business is growing. Let that be now, because that will constantly keep growing if you put that effort in. However, why don't you put the same effort into growing your relationships? And I'm very bad at that. So I'm just going to be straight up. I've realized I'm really good at creating these relationships when it's looking after all my amazing couples, because trying to get them into that zone of thinking, think positive during this time, despite the situation. You're going to get married, you're going to do this, you're going to do this, don't worry. But then when it comes to talking amongst family members, uh, am I actually really there? And I know what I need to say, but I just stop myself. And that could be because when it comes from family, and when you're listening to what family have to tell you, I think in the back of your mind, it's like judgment. Whereas when you speak to someone like me, yourself, yeah, I mean, yourself, I mean, I know you, but I can still talk to you openly, like, you know, half my life, because yeah, it is judgment, but then I know you're not going to judge. Whereas family, like, it comes back to that point where I keep mentioning, is they are saying it out of love, but you need to understand that and then move forward. And I was watching something when I was doing the whole Tony Robbins course this week on the relationship one. He brought this video up by Ellen. Okay, and I don't know if you know this, guys, but Ellen did a show where something went viral. Did you about this dress? What color is this dress? And some people thought it was gold, and some people thought it was blue. And there was another one where it was based on a voice. So this voice was scrambled up, right, or distorted, and you were trying to figure out what this voice is trying to tell you. However, once you played it again at the real voice without it being distorted, and when you heard the distorted version again, you knew exactly what you were looking for and hearing. So it's just it's sometimes opening up that mindset, and actually just going ahead. And I think this is where a lot of the men, and not just men, women as well, they struggle to move forward, like myself. Because I think if like I mentioned earlier, I think if I open up a little bit more, and actually from the Vipassana that I did for 15 hours, if I actually write things down and take what's come in that realization and take it forward without actually thinking about what others are going to think, actually, not just my business, but my whole life may flourish. But I'm holding myself back, right?
There's something that you said that was so perfect, especially now that you've just said what you said, that I do want to highlight for you. It's clear, right? Business is doing great. And then you said, but I have to apply the same energy and effort into relationships. Now, what you've done is you've doubled your workload in your mind versus how much time, energy, effort can you start with to apply into relationships. So that's the example of the blind spot.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. It's really interesting, isn't it, guys? It's like quote unquote one word that you said, which I'll quote unquote, right? Which is, you said the word, and you might think, why is he choosing that word? And you said the word there, right? So you said, I'm not there yet. Guess what, bro? None of us are ever there yet. We're always I'm not anywhere near wherever there is. I think the beautiful thing about what you said is you've had the reflection, you've had the realization, and you're asking yourself those deep, meaningful questions. So you're already there because you're on that journey, right, of doing whatever you need to do to get to wherever you need to get to. Because I think as guys especially, right, men don't really tend to go super, super, super deep. And they do go deep, but they don't tend to sort of share. But until you actually share, and obviously there's a time and place for sharing, and you can't share it with every Tom, Dick, and Harry because
Yeah.
not everyone vibes on your energy frequency, and, you know, and vibration and all that. But when you find that you can openly share, I think it's just a liberating feeling, right? And it's not something that's to be kind of shoved into a closet, like sometimes what we do with our emotions. It's almost like you need to open that door, you need to see what's inside, and if you don't like what's inside, great, but you can do something about it, right? And it's just one of those things. I'm not talking like on a personal now, I'm just generalizing now.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I think, as I said, you know, and even in terms of um, the relationship side of things, and I think what's actually Viraj made a good point is putting the energy into my business, and now I've got to put energy into my relationship. So my mind is telling me, oh, it's double the work. Where actually it isn't. And then because my mind's thinking it's double the work, you tend to just think, well, let me just think what I'm good at, because clearly I'm good at being and I know I will be there when this happens.
It's actually
There you go.
you're right. On the surface it seems that's actually double the work, but actually when you look under the surface and under the bonnet, it's actually half the work, right? Because what Viraj said, and I'll just point out, is that when you choose, and I talk about this a lot, right? But you guys know this, but when you choose where and how to channel your time and energy, it just seems to flow. Like it just happens, right? Because you're in control of it, you're in that driving seat. And it's like anything and anyone in your life, right? You're absolutely in control where you spend your time and energy, and they're the most two expensive things in life, because you can't get your time back and you can't get the energy back, right? Because it's spent. So I think it's really cool what you shared, and you just given me something to work on in my personal life, which I never knew, right? And this is the beautiful thing about this conversation, that the blind spots can be seen and uncovered in any conversation, in any moment in time, if you choose to see life through lens that is not just yours, right? And that's the main that's kind of main point of it.
Yeah, there's a comment here from Thiren in the chat.
Oh, sorry, I didn't know who's welcome, because I never can see the Facebook chat because I don't have it live on my phone. But
No, it's from a few minutes ago, but I think hopefully this conversation may have added a little bit of light in terms of what's possible. So Darren's comment is, in lockdown we get stuck in that vicious circle. Zoom, FaceTime, everything's good, but nothing quite like the real thing, and music helps me. And I think this is something that we can totally relate to, because I spend all my day on Zoom and video calls and stuff. But to me, the missing is that, and I know Manager agrees with me, is that physical connection, that energy. Of course, you can exchange energy online and when you're being, but there's a difference in doing so. And the thing that I've worked on is, okay, what is, if for however long we have that physical connection is not there, we have this medium that's digital. What else is something that I can do in the meantime for me to feel some kind of connection to something? And it's great that music helps you, right? Because I think there's a lot of power in words and lyrics, and that takes you to a place in your mind for sure. And actually, on reflecting on this question, one thing I realized was I haven't been doing my walks for like 3 or 4 weeks now, which was, for me, I had to get out the house, because it's just, the carrying is a very digital thing. I've got a screen here, I've got a screen here, I've got a screen on my phone. The kids have got iPads right now. With homeschooling, so everything is a screen. And what I found just kind of helped me get out of that vicious circle previously was just getting out the house and doing 10,000 steps. And that hour and a half, hour and 40 minutes it would take, I'd listen to just some instrumentals, I'd listen to some music, or I'd listen to a podcast, or I'd listen to an audiobook, like whatever I needed at the time. Because if I needed information or if I wanted something, I had that. But just being able to look at, what if I keep doing what I'm doing, I'm in the vicious circle. So what is something that's going to be different, that's not a fix, to look at what's wrong? Because things
Absolutely.
are, what's the solution? What are some of the things that I can do that doesn't have me do that, because
Absolutely.
so
That's great. Who was it that shared? Is it Darren? Darren, yeah. Thanks for sharing, Darren. Awesome, awesome. I think, and it was reference to lockdown, right?
Yes.
As what he, okay. I think, yeah, 100%. Like whatever your source of inspiration or release or escapism or just to chillax, right, is, and music is absolutely universal. Shout out to my man Bob Marley. So if you don't know about Bob Marley, obviously check him out. Everyone knows about Bob Marley. I think reggae is my soothing go-to music. I think Saga knows that. That's what I request 24/7 when he's playing. But back to what you said about whatever your source is. I think for me, and it's similar to you, right, it's very much, it's nature. Like when I go out for walks, and who remembers, I mean everyone remembers, right, the Sunday that we had where it was snowing. What a beautiful day it was, right? So you could either, and it's personal to everyone, right? So me and the family had a bit of a snowball fight in the garden. It was absolutely wicked, right? We had so much fun and jokes, and yeah, it was cold, but it's like, do something different that's going to put a smile on your face, right? And embrace what actually is around you. So how often do we get snow? I then actually went to my favorite place, Bentley Priory, and fed the reindeers there, right, in the snow. So I thought, how cool was that? But the most profound thing about all of that was that you get off your backside, you do something about it, you see what's outside your kind of norm or your space. And then the first thing I saw was everyone having a snowball fight on the whole street. I'm like, that is really cool. I've never seen half these neighbors, right, come out saying hello, having conversations with them. And then this is the point of what you're saying, right, where I just like, step out of your own space, do something different, because change is only experienced through transformation, and transformation is only experienced when you change what you do. And if you do what you do every single day and the same thing, well, guess what, you're going to get the same results.
Yeah. And that circle of awareness, everyone says, I want to get out of the comfort zone. So understand what exactly is the comfort zone. So that's the reflection piece of, why am I at where I'm at, or experiencing what I'm at right now? Where is this coming from? Because before you go forward, you kind of have to take a look backwards to see what's there. And then when you have that realization of moment, it's now, how do you action the epiphany? Because again, a realization is just another insight, but if you don't act on it, what's the point? So what is, just again, we just talk about not like massive life transformation, but life transformation happens in a sequence of small steps. So just start doing something slightly different. 1% every day means you have 365% growth at the end of the year if you just do one new thing or keep building something every single day. So it's just, and I'm going to show on the screen next in terms of some of the ways that you can do that. But without action, nothing's going to, and that comfort zone becomes uncomfortable, but it's your comfort zone. So even the wording doesn't quite make sense. How is it a comfort zone if you want to get out of it?
I think what you said about the 1%, I think for those of you who haven't seen that or read that context, 100%, I'm a massive believer in that. So can you imagine that, how easy that sounds, right? You're only sort of doing something that's 1% incremental in whatever aspect of your life, whether it's family, relationship, finance, goals, career, business, it doesn't really make a difference, right? And when you reflect back on it, isn't it cool in December where you're not making in some degree shallow New Year's resolutions, but you're actually reflecting, you already had the 365 growth, you're just going to reset it and do it again for the next year. It's just a simple but profound thing that you shared. But no, I think 100%. I think the other thing to add is, whilst you bring up what you're bringing up is, and just for everyone listening, for the men and all the women, is that you have your journey, right? So what we didn't share actually and unpack is that there's different stages, right, and steps, meaning you've got the moment of awareness where you need to reflect and realize what you need to realize and experience what you need to experience because you've acknowledged what's in your blind spots. But then it's like stepping out of your own way. So what we talked about quite deeply is your ego, right? So as men, we quite often quite ego centric, right? And women are obviously as well, because ego is not biased in terms of what sex you are. But I think once you step out of your own ego, and I think something about ego I just want to touch on is that in any situation, it takes somebody to actually have the awareness, and there's no levels, right, in life. So what I mean by awareness is that if you're in a conflict, or if you're in a debate or in a conversation or whatever, and you're in a disagreement, there's always two people who always have the same view where they think they're right, right? But the difference is if you can be the person who has the macro view as opposed to the micro view, which is actually being in the situation, that's when you actually have a moment of realization where you think, aha, you have that aha moment thinking, do you know what? I'm going to squash my own ego. I'm going to not be right all the time. And I'm just going to forgive the situation, wherever it is, and move on. And then it sounds so simple, what I'm saying, but it's so difficult to do. But once you get to that stage of, and it's not even a stage, once you experience that feeling, you kind of repeat it, right? And you recycle it and you rinse and repeat it because you think, do you know what? If it don't make a difference, if I don't keep at it and it don't make a difference, then what's the point, right? And forgiveness is a powerful thing. We can do a whole talk on forgiveness separately, but yeah, I think I'll stop there. But I think I just wanted to share that and unpack that.
I think that's, yeah, forgiveness is massive as well. Then
It is massive,
let's touch back on that, because I think that's the other thing. I think we do put too much pressure on ourselves and expectations as well. But just in terms of ways that we can begin to, start a reflection process that can lead to a realization and ultimately some kind of actions to take that are going to lead to growth as well. And again, guys in the chat, if you have any questions, feel free to drop some comments or ask questions as well. We're more than happy to take care of those too. So the first thing, as we said, a gratitude practice, and not just saying I'm grateful that the sun came out, but just adding some depth and layers and the why of why we're grateful. And one of the guys shared a great example of how people can say grateful for this big massive house and car and all the lavish stuff, but actually something as simple as grateful as the person that made the toilet seat. Because without that, what's the point of the house? So again, just simple things where you can really see the abundance of things that you can be grateful for just by looking around a room. And really using that as a way to really cultivate that sense of appreciation and gratitude and almost self-worth to what you have around you.
Can I just add something which might help amplify the need to be grateful? So something that I practice every single day is, and it's something that I've not been doing for a long time, but I've been doing it for long enough that it's just embedded in me, where I actually say that I'm grateful for the breath I take, because especially with everything that's happened in general in life in 2020, I think it's something that you can take for granted, right? And you might think, hang on a minute, what do you mean you're grateful for the breath you take? You just inhale, exhale. But actually the ability to actually be grateful for the breath you take humbles you, because then you realize that life is as precious as you think it is. And when you're in this Netflix zone or wherever it is, or TV or partying or whatever, and there's no judgment here because I've been there, done it, all that kind of stuff, right? But when you actually step back and you think, wow, if I can be grateful for the breath I take, then that humbles me, right? It just brings you down a few levels.
And definitely just believing that, because it's something that someone can very easily say, I'm grateful to be breathing. And I've heard people say that, but it's like, yeah, but what does it mean to be breathing?
And that's the magic, what you said. It has to be something visual, and it has to be something personal, and it has to be something meaningful, because words are just empty words unless it has meaning, right?
Exactly that. Absolutely. And just asking some really important questions of yourself as well, like just playing into that in terms of, why is this really important? Why am I grateful for this? And how is this enhance my life and my experience? And what would it be like if I didn't have this? Like just really adding those layers to your gratitude practice. Meditation is a great way, and not necessarily having to totally zen out and switch off, but actually just pausing, whether you do something guided or just sitting in silence and just having that inner reflection of the mirror. Because we use the example of the Lion King. Simba had to look into a lake to see the picture, but sometimes you can just go within and look at that internal mirror and begin to take a look at what's in your space and what's around you, to start connecting some of those dots as well. And then whether you externalize it in the form of a journal, a blog, a vlog, whatever works for you, but just some sort of physical transference, because again, meditation is important, but then you still need to have the balance between the material and the immaterial, the consciousness and the reality, something that just bridges what's in your mind into some form of physical, into some form of physicalness, to then begin to take action on there. Because again, it's just an insight that just never gets applied.
And just to add to that, if I may, Raj, meditation is not this lotus position and Zen moment. Yeah, that's kind of one a very small aspect of it. Meditation can be anything, right? So you can be meditating when you're in the gym. You could be meditating, well, like Diran, when you're listening to music. You could be meditating when I go for walks. I'm meditating, right? So meditating is just creating that inner sacred space, right, wherever that is to you, where you can actually think freely and experience freely without all that noise and 80,000 thoughts, etc., that are going through your mind. So I think obviously there's prayer and there's chanting, and then there's all forms of aspects you can sort of add on to that. But I think the word meditation sometimes it gets put on a pedestal, right?
Yeah, it does. And I think one thing I just want to touch on that is one of the things that I got taught during the Vipassana is we part of the Vipassana course, we had to actually do a 4 posture meditation, right? And that's an everyday thing. And the 4 postures are, of course, walking meditation, laying meditation, sitting meditation, and standing meditation. And a lot of people don't know that. You know, people think it's a bit weird. You just stand there and meditate, but actually, you don't realize how much you're in depth in terms of meditation. Whether you're laying, and if you're laying and you fall asleep, all good, right? There's nothing wrong with it. But there are 4 postures, and I never knew that. I mean, you know, when I realized I had to do a 4 posture meditation, until I got told, I had no idea. You know, everyone just thinks you have to sit there in silence, cross-legged. But no, I mean, there are people that can't sit on a cross-legged, you know, and so sitting just normally on a chair is not an issue at all. They say sitting upright because it just means that you can fill up your lungs when you're actually breathing instead of slouching, which is really easy to do. So, and I know Manoj, you know, you do a lot of walking meditation, right? Whether it's through just walking and listening to something, it's still meditation, right? Because you're actually zoned out in your own way, which is what you call meditation. So,
I find, I don't know about you guys, but when you kind of get into a flow state when you're doing something, that's meditative.
mm,
Sometimes I'm like, okay, how can I do what I like doing? Because when I feel in that flow, I feel like that's where my only focus is. And it's quite liberating in that sense as well. Just from
100%, 100%. Like you just reminded me now. Like my flow state is writing. I absolutely love writing because it's my form of expressionism, right? Sometimes I don't know what I write, or it's not, you know, it's, and 99% it's not premeditated. But I think that's an important point you've touched on, Saga and Viraj as well. It's like find your own flow state. Everyone has that, whatever that is. Find yours.
There's a great comment here, 2 great comments here from Darren. Firstly, just my positive fallback is the basics, taken for granted things such as a roof over my head, food on the table, heating, water, hot water, having to use shower, toilet. Yeah, like you can imagine, we're being in lockdown, but we're safe. That we have all of this at our disposal. Like you can imagine people that were going through World War II back in the day, like they never had internet. Like I don't know how we can survive without internet. Like 6 years, people went through it, right? So again, it's incredible when you just make that comparison. What's all possible, and again,
Gratitude, right? Gratitude.
yeah. I know some older people who have no
Mm.
smartphone internet, but they are so happy. I often wonder how do they do it. Great question. And do you know what? Sometimes just ask them, like, what is it that they're doing that's working? You know, because you're right. Like sometimes the more things we have, the more clutter we have, the more unhappy we are as well. So maybe it's a minimal thing, but I definitely invite you to explore that and ask that question for sure. Just going to share the next few things and then we can definitely revisit this as well. So we mentioned just taking that walk in nature and how just connecting with, you know, the universe, the reality that's outside of us that can really just help kind of ground and change that environment for us. Breathing, again, connecting with your life force. You know, as we said, you can do it as a meditation, or you can do things like box breathing when you're stressed out, like so many different ways just to kind of bring yourself back to your core, just to connect with your life force and then just slow things down. Reading, writing, as Manoj was saying as well, you know, analyzing past events as an observer. So as we go back to that diagram about the circle of awareness and the blind spots, like we have a story about how certain things have happened and we continue to run that. But if you were looking at it from the outside in, there's another perspective. What is the other side of that coin? So you can get a better picture of what's going on, which could lead to a realization or a new action point.
There's an amazing book. I know you asked me for it, so you just reminded me on point 8. So if you ever really want to experience what the observer feels like, a book by Deepak Chopra called Synchro Destiny. Highly, highly, highly recommend it. And I'm actually using some of the practices in my own life right now. So
Yep, definitely. It's a great book. Great book. And yeah, as we say earlier, like just setting and taking actions, but making them smart. Don't say you want to. New Year's resolutions are a great thing, right? But at the same time, it's, what is the specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, time-bound steps that you're going to take, and not just have one big, massive goal, but the 1%. Get these 1% done and create accountabilities around them. So, tell someone what you're going to do and have them check in with you, so the burden isn't on your shoulders. But just set yourself up to win by setting some smart actions and creating that structure around you that's going to help you continue to stay in motion. Mention practicing forgiveness, and ultimately forgiveness is for yourself. Like, what's the point in being angry at someone and they may or may not feel the heat, but you're the source of that heat? They've done whatever they've done, but it's on you to let that go for yourself first and foremost. Because until you do that, there's no forgiveness outside. So again, take the inside out approach. What is the thing that you're holding on to? How is it really serving you? What is it holding you back from? And choose to let it go for you more than anyone else. Service, massive thing, because again, tying in with gratitude, when you make yourself available to serve others that may have something that you don't have, it's a very humbling experience. And I think, a lot of when people talk about people that are going through recovery of addictions and stuff, one of the things is about service, to connect with those that are maybe a little less fortunate, or to give something, or to show up for another person is very powerful, because you realize that just by showing up, you're simply enough. And then anything you do on top of that is an absolute bonus. And then finally, reaching out and getting some coaching, some mentoring, some therapies, anything that's going to help your personal and professional development, because you have whatever you need inside of you. And if you feel that there's a skill set or some support that you need that you can leverage from an expert, by all means, go out and do that. There's definitely no shame and stigma in doing that. It's actually a sensible thing to do, because otherwise, what's the point in being a hamster on a wheel and realizing you're on the wrong wheel? So sometimes that external perspective, someone to ask you questions to help you in your reflections and realizations and your growth strategy, is a vital component as well to continue to grow personally and professionally.
Yeah, really, really lots of powerful shares and lots of things, and something I touched on previously. Thank you for sharing that and with us, Viraj. I think what's really, really powerful is, if you've never ever experienced number, I mean, they're all important, but if you've never experienced number 11, which was serving others, I sort of plead with you, right, from a place of inner joy that I'm experiencing, and everyone experiences, right, when you serve others. And I think do it. And the most powerful thing is that if you can serve others in both states of fluxes, i.e. when you're in a state of pain and when you're in a state of joy, and you can do it in either state and still continue to do it, I think it's not just you're not doing it for any other reason other than you realize that life is bigger than you, right? We're all connected souls. So I think what Viraj said, and quite nicely summed up, is that show up for someone, because everyone needs someone in their life to show up for them, right? And if you say you don't, then you're lying, because everyone goes through ups and downs. But no, awesome. I think we probably need to wrap up. I'm not sure if there's any other questions or comments, because I can't see it. So, but we've been talking since 11 o'clock, right? Because we love doing this.
Absolutely. Well, our next event is in 2 weeks' time on conscious parenting, which I think is going to be another topic as well. Actually, no, sorry, it's coming up. Next week we're celebrating our successes on the 13th of February. And then it's conscious parenting as well. And then we're going to have some new events coming up soon as well. So we're going to put a poll on our page for any suggestions. We've had some really interesting ones already come to the fore, which one was choosing to stay single versus being in a relationship, and the other one was unpacking the matrix as well. So again, some really good stuff coming up, but we welcome your suggestions. And again, thank you guys for showing up and being with us here. For the people that join live, people that will catch up on replay, we appreciate you. And please do connect with us. Share our page with the Facebook page, and our social media accounts are for everyone. It's Mindful Men's Club, but we're just here to connect, grow, and serve as many people as possible. Our private Zooms are every other week for men only. just to be able to have that conversation in a sort of more sort of intimate and safer setting. And then afterwards we do a live for anyone and everyone that wants to take part, comment, and if you want to join us on video, by all means, you just need to make a request of us, and we'll have that too as well. So Manoj, Sagar, is there anything I've forgotten?
You've wrapped up quite nicely, and just obviously a massive shout out to our sister groups, which are Mental Wealth and Reroute. So definitely check them out as well. But yeah.
Yeah, I just want to finish that off just saying, yeah, please do. I know so many of you have connected with us on our Mindful Men's Club Facebook page, and we're so grateful for that, especially because it's not just men only on the group. There's a lot of women on there as well. But please do connect with us on YouTube, guys. We do have a YouTube channel, Mindful Men's Club. Just type that into the search and it will pop up. And you know, all these debriefs that we have on Facebook, they're all uploaded on the YouTube channel, and it is split up into topics, so you don't have to go through every single video. You can pick the topic of your choice, whatever you're feeling on that day. And even the shares and the YouTube videos that we share on our private Zoom chat with the men, they're also uploaded. So you may find some insight into some of the videos that we share. So please do share this, guys, and you know, let's grow together, as I always say. So thank you so much again, and again, yeah, thank you, Viraj and Manoj, you know, for all the support that we've given everyone else as well, together, and Havan as well. And Havan,
Thank you.
yes.
Thank you, everyone. On that really positive note, have a super blessed weekend, and we hope that you found this useful in some small tiny way. And stay blessed, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
See you in
Later,
2.
guys.
Catch you.
See you later.